everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikki. I was recently diagnosed with autism at the age of 23, and I make videos about autism and that my late diagnosis experience and that sort of thing. I also throw in some story times and other random videos from time to time here and there. Today's video is actually going to be a story time, and I guess this story time can sort of tie into being autistic. This story time took place when I was in high school, before I knew that I was autistic, but it was about a friend that I had. And I use the term very loosely because she wasn't really a friend. She very much took advantage of me and used me, and I definitely will, part of it is my fault because I am like the most non-confrontational person you will ever meet. I just have such a hard time saying no to people. It's not even funny, and I know I need to work on that. But like, yeah, I have such a hard time telling people no. And so, and that makes me more prone to situations like that of people taking advantage of me. And I think part of it was that I had such a hard time making friends as an autistic teenager. And I still have a hard time making friends, but I definitely have always had a hard time making friends. And when I found one person that wanted to hang out with me and actually was interested in me, or at least showed interest in me, I just was like a people pleaser to them. Like I was worried that if I did say no, if I did put my foot down, if I did anything like that, that they would not want to be my friend anymore. And I didn't want to ruin a friendship with somebody, because friendships were very hard for me to come by. If that makes sense. So I mean, I know you're going to tell me in this story in the comments, oh, you should have been more tough. You should have said no. You know, why did you let her walk all over you? It's your own fault that this happened. And I'm ready for that because I know it's my fault, but I just figured for entertainment purposes, I'll tell this story, so that you can, and maybe it'll teach some other people a lesson that you need to not be afraid of confrontation and not be afraid to put your foot down, and also understand that if somebody is using you and taking advantage of you, they're not really a friend. Before I get into this video, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and that would really help me out a lot. If you're interested in seeing more autism content or story times or anything that I do on my channel, if any of that is of interest, definitely subscribe. And yeah, and I already know this video is going to be really, really, really long. I think I've just accepted the fact that I can't tell a short story. So grab yourself a beverage, grab yourself a snack, and let's get started. So for the sake of this video, we are going to call my friend Hannah. And so Hannah transferred to my high school right about halfway through the spring semester of my freshman year. She had moved from another town that was like 25 minutes or so out west from where I lived. So she was attending a high school in her hometown, and then she and her family had moved, and now she was living in my town and had transferred into my high school. So she was in my homeroom class, and that was kind of like where we met, how we met. We started talking, and she seemed really fun to hang out with. It seemed that we really clicked in terms of a friendship, because as I mentioned, I've always had a hard time making friends. And if you watched my first video on this channel about my self-diagnosis story, I did mention that my freshman year of high school, like the summer before, like literally a week before school started, I moved from out of state. So I was at a high school where I didn't know anybody. And as an autistic person, it's hard for anybody to make to make friends like at that age in high school when a lot of people have known each other since kindergarten, you know. But especially as an autistic person, it was really hard for me to make friends. I basically had no friends at school. I ate lunch alone, that sort of thing. And so I was so happy that I finally found somebody to hang out with at school so that I didn't have to be completely lonely all the time. So I was really, really happy about Hannah and meeting her and talking with her. In the following fall, in our sophomore year, she was also in my homeroom class as well. She wasn't in any other classes besides homeroom. But yeah, so we continued to talk and hang out, and I looked forward to going to homeroom. We only went to homeroom on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So Mondays and Wednesdays we didn't do homeroom, but I looked forward to it every day because I'm like, she's my, now I have a friend at school, So yeah. And eventually she started to kind of take advantage of me. And I was at first obviously in denial of that. And I just kind of brushed it off as it was something else, that she totally wasn't trying to use me. But the first thing that she started doing was taking part of my lunch, because I brought my lunch to school every day because school cafeteria food's nasty. But I brought my lunch to school, and I would usually bring like a Nutella sandwich, so like just like bread and Nutella, that was it. And then I would bring a thing of yogurt like as a side, and then I would bring a bag of like some kind of crackers or chips like Goldfish or Cheez-Its or something like that. I would bring a drink like a bottle of like apple juice or something like that. And I would also bring some kind of dessert item like a cookie or brownie or whatever. And so there was this one day that I was at school, and she asked me, "Oh, what did you bring for lunch today? Can you show me?" And I start to tell her, "Oh, this is what I brought." And she's like, "Oh no, like, can you actually show me like what's inside of your lunchbox?" And so I showed her, and she's like, "Oh, these look good." And she like grabs the cookies and the Cheez-Its or whatever crackers that I had brought that day. And she's like, "Can I please have these?" And like me being the person that can't say no to anybody, I was like, "Sure, fine, whatever." Even though it was like the best part of the lunch that she had just taken, and just left me with the boring part of my lunch. But she started doing that. And then every single day when we had homeroom, or if she saw me in the hallways, like on the days that we didn't have homeroom, she would stop me and ask me, "Can I have your cookies and your chips?" And so it just became a thing where every single day I would give her part of my lunch. And it made me really mad because like I wanted to eat those things. Those were, like I said, the best part of my lunch that she was stealing from me. And so I eventually started just packing 2 bags of cookies and 2 bags of chips. That way she could have one and I could have the other. And I'm sure my mom wasn't too thrilled about essentially having to buy lunch for 2 kids rather than one kid. But that was one thing that she started to do. Another thing that she started doing was she would use my phone. So here's another thing that's kind of an important detail to this story. So allegedly her parents were like really, really strict, and like they seemed, at least from what she told me, I don't know what was true or not, what she was telling me just to manipulate me, but it sounded like from what she was telling me, she had like really, really strict parents, and they would ground her constantly for like the pettiest reasons. She would tell me some of the things that she got grounded for were like really stupid. Like I think she told me about this one time where she was vacuuming her house, like doing her chores, and her stepmom, because she lived with her dad and her stepmom, her biological father and stepmom, and her stepmom, who was like in college, like doing college classes, was like working on homework or something like that. And she was vacuuming, and obviously the vacuum cleaner's loud. And her stepmom told her to stop vacuuming so that she could like focus and concentrate on her homework assignment or whatever. she was doing, and she didn't hear her stepmom like hollering at her over the vacuum cleaner, and then her stepmom got upset at her for not listening, when in reality she just didn't hear her, and then took the vacuum cleaner through and like threw it down the stairs and told her she was grounded. Which that seems like a pretty stupid reason. Like, it's not like she was purposely not listening to you. She just didn't hear you, you know? And then there was a couple like stories that she told me about that I think were definitely like well deserved for her to be grounded and were justified. Like, she told me about a time that she tried to sneak out of her house and climb out the window, and her parents were pulling up to the driveway as she was doing it. I can see them grounding her for something like that. But grounding her for, you know, petty reasons, apparently they did stuff like that all the time. And she would tell me that she would get grounded and then she would do something else that would get her into trouble, whether it was like talking back to her parents or not doing her chores or whatever, and they would ground her even more. And so she was basically grounded like the entire school year, which I can get more into that. But yeah, that's one important detail. And obviously, when you get grounded, one of the things that always happens is your parents usually take your phone away. So she didn't have a phone. And so she would always ask to use my phone because she didn't have one. And so she would use my phone for a lot of like stupid nonsense, like playing games on my phone and that sort of thing. And let me tell you, I hate other people using my phone. I really do. I don't like it. Like, unless you have something important to use my phone for, like if you have to if you have to call somebody for an important reason, that's fine. But like, if you're just going to use my phone for games, like, no, I mean, I've deleted games off of my phone just so people wouldn't want to use it. So I hate that. That's one of the things I hate. But she would do that. She would want to play games on my phone, but also she would use my phone to text guys that she was dating. Because the other thing is, I think she had some kind of like codependency issues, because she would go through boyfriends really quickly. Like, she would date somebody for maybe a couple weeks and then break up with them and then like immediately have another boyfriend. You know, she would like every week she would have a new boyfriend, have a new phone number from somebody. And so she would use my phone to text her boyfriend. And the other thing is, most of the guys that she dated were freshmen because, you know, we were sophomores. But she was in a lot of classes with freshmen because my high school, you know, she had transferred in from another high school the previous semester. But my high school had a lot of like graduation requirements that they typically make you take your freshman year that like a lot of other schools don't really do, if that makes sense. And so because she wouldn't have taken those classes her freshman year, they had her taking them her sophomore year. So she was in a bunch of classes with freshmen. So I think she dated just about every freshman boy at my school that year. Like, and it was really annoying because like she would ask me to use my phone. And once again, I would let her do it because I can't say no to people. She would ask to use my phone and she would just go and text these guys. And I obviously didn't know who these people were because they were freshmen and I wasn't in any classes with them or anything like that. And that's what she would do. And so I would have a bunch of guys that I didn't know. Like, I would have their phone numbers in my phone and I would get text messages from these guys while I was in class that I didn't know. And that was kind of annoying. And then there was this one day where I came into school. This was actually like a week before my birthday. And I remember I had wanted to do something for my birthday with her. Like, I wanted to do something with Hannah for my birthday. And she was grounded, as I mentioned. And so I was trying to ask her, like, is there any chance you would get ungrounded so you and I could do something for my birthday? And she says, I'll talk to my parents about it and like, we'll see what they say, if they'd be willing to like, let me go out with you and hang out and do something for your birthday. And so it was like a week before my birthday. It was on a Monday and I came into school And I got to school started at like 8:10, and I got to school at like 7:40 that morning. So like it was, we still had quite a bit of time before like the bell rang and we had to be in our first hour class. But she was standing like right by the front entrance of the school, like as if she had been waiting for me to arrive. And she stops me and she's like, "Hey, I was wondering if you could give me your phone and I could take your phone and borrow it during my first hour class." And I'm like, "Well, what do you need my phone for?" And she's like, "Well, my dad says that I need to text him about your birthday, so to see if he would be willing to let me hang out with you and do stuff with you for your birthday, even though I'm grounded." And that to me just didn't make any sense, because I'm like, why is your dad making you text him and have this conversation over a text message? Like, you live with your father. Wouldn't it make the most sense for you guys to discuss this matter, like over dinner or something like that at the dinner table at your house, rather than doing it on someone else's phone at school? And then I go, okay, well, like, because we still had like 30 minutes until the bell rang. So I was like, can you text your dad right now so you don't have to like take my phone? Because I was like really hesitant about letting her take my phone, and, in fear that she was going to lose it or break it or get it taken up by a teacher. And she's like, "No, my dad says I have to text him during first hour. It has to be during first hour." And I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, why would your dad ask you to text him while you're supposed to be in class? Like, doesn't he know that especially asking you to do it on someone else's phone? Like, doesn't he know that there was a chance that you could get the phone taken up because you're on it when you're supposed to be listening to the teacher? But I'm just like, I'm trying to like talk her out of not taking it. And then finally I give in and I'm like, okay, but you have to give it back to me after first hour. And we discussed a like rendezvous point in the school that was on the way to my second hour class, because my second hour class was PE, I remember. And it was on like the other side of the school. So I kind of had a ways to walk. So we discussed a point where we were going to meet and she was going to give me back my phone. So we go to first hour, and then first hour ends, and I start walking towards my PE class, and I stop, and I'm standing right where she and I said we were going to meet. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and she doesn't come. And then it gets to like, a minute, less than a minute until I have to be in the, at PE class. And so I'm like, I have to head over to the gym so that I can go to my PE class, or I'm going to have to run extra laps if I'm late. So, and she never showed up. And so I was very concerned, but I went to PE class, and then I got out of PE class, went to my third hour class, which was on the other end of the school once again. And, yeah, so I wouldn't have seen her or had time to like track her down during that passing period, because I would have like had just enough time to change out of my PE uniform and then go to my third hour class and not be late. But yeah. So she was still hadn't seen her. So I'm in my third hour class, and I'm just like, have these feelings of anxiety of like what could have happened with my phone. Like, I hope she didn't get it taken up. I hope that she didn't lose it. I hope there's a good reason that she didn't meet up with me when she said she was going to give me my phone back. And so after my third hour class, was my lunch period. So my plan was I was literally going to like skip lunch, and I was going to walk up and down every single hall of the school until I found her and found my phone and got that back. I also thought about like, maybe I'll just go into the office and see if this like secretary could call her down to the office and ask her to give me my phone back. And so I got out of third hour and I just start walking up and down the school, and luckily pretty quickly I ran into her and I said, "Can I please have my phone back?" And she gives it back to me, and she literally tells me when she gives me my phone back, "Oh, please don't look at any of the text messages or anything that I sent on your phone." And in my mind, I'm like, you're damn right I'm going to look because this is my phone. Like, why would she tell me that? And so, yeah, I do go look at the text messages because I want to see if she was actually texting her dad, which she wasn't. She was literally texting boys. And she had like every app on my phone open. So she was clearly like, she completely lied to me. You know, she was not using my phone to say, using it for what she said she was going to need it for. She was using it to text boys and to play stupid games. That was it. And that made me really mad. She drained most of the battery of it. And she just freaked me out because, like I said, I was so worried that she lost my phone. And like, I didn't have a job at the time yet. So it's not, I didn't want her to lose an expensive phone because like, I probably wouldn't be able to get another phone, whatever. So that happened and it made me really angry. And I eventually just started learning to like, every time we had homeroom, I would just keep my phone in my backpack. I would keep it out of sight because every time I took it out, she would see it and be like, oh, can I use your phone? So yeah, to try to avoid her from wanting to use my phone, I would just keep it away and not, make it seem like let her forget that it even exists. So that was another thing. That happened. And then I guess the next story that I can tell is, so fast forward to the spring, or like the second semester of my sophomore year. That's when I got my first job working in a fast food restaurant. That is the same job that I had up until I left for college. And she ended up getting, my voice is going away. She ended up getting a job at the same fast food place that I worked at like 2 weeks later. She started working there. And at first I was really excited because I'm like, yay, now I have a friend at work. And very quickly, right after she started working there, and whenever we would be scheduled to work the same shifts, she would start like nagging at me to buy her something, like to buy her food, like fries or like a shake or like a burger. Sometimes she would ask me to buy her food or buy her like a Blizzard at Dairy Queen because there was a Dairy Queen across the street from where we worked at. So, she started to ask me to buy her things, and it was really annoying because like I'm earning money that like I want to like have to use for things that I want to do, and also to put away in savings so I can have it for college expenses, in a couple years. And here she is like asking me constantly to buy her things. And again, like I just really didn't want to give in to her. And so, and you're probably wondering, well, wasn't she making money too? Like if she wanted a shake or wanted food so badly, why didn't she just buy it herself? Well, here's the thing. Apparently her mom and dad had like confiscated her debit card after she started working because they didn't want her to like spend all of her money in one place. Like they didn't want her to blow all of her money on like junk food and stuff, which I found that I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that was just something that she was telling me to manipulate me, because I find it hard to believe that your parents would take your, take your, like tell you to go get a job and then not let you spend any of the money that you are making. Like I can understand them wanting to teach you good spending habits, but I feel like that's a little excessive to just completely take away her access to her money. Like maybe give her, if you're going to do that, like you think they'd at least give her like $20 a paycheck that she can spend on like fun things or treats or whatever. But yeah, so she didn't have any like access to any of her money. So that's why she was always asking me to buy her things. And it was really annoying. And I would have to like, and because I didn't want to give in to her, and I didn't want this to turn into me spending all of my paychecks on her and food for her. So I would try to, and because I'm just so bad at saying no, like I couldn't just flat out tell her, no, I'm not buying you a shake. No, I'm not buying you fries. You're just gonna like, tough luck if your parents aren't going to let you spend any of your money, whatever. Like, this is my money that I'm earning, and I am entitled to using it on myself, not having to buy you things. And instead of being firm with her, I would just make up some kind of excuse. Like, I would just say something like, oh, I really shouldn't spend money on that. You know, I'm trying to save up to buy a car, or I'm trying to save up for college. You know, I would say things like that just to try to get her off my back. And then after I would tell her, she would continue to bug me and to beg me. And throughout our shift, like, I would be sweeping the dining room, I would be doing my side work, and she'd come up to me and be like, please buy me a shake. Please, it's only like $3. And I would tell her, no, I really shouldn't be doing that. You know, I don't want to blow all of my money on food. Yeah, and she would continue to do it and just continue to pester me. And there would be times that I would manage to make it through my shift without giving in to her and buying her whatever it was she was asking me to buy her. And then other times I would give in to her and I would end up getting her whatever it was she wanted. And then eventually, because I didn't drive and she didn't drive either. Because as we all know, if you watched my video I made a few weeks ago, I didn't get my license until 22 years old. So I didn't drive. So I would just walk. Like, when I would be scheduled to work or after school, I would just walk from school to my job, and I would get there like right on time as my shift was supposed to start. And she would get a ride from somebody, from like another person she was friends with at school, and like her aunt. She would get a ride with them to work and stuff. And so she started offering, whenever she and I would work at the same time, she started offering me to get rides with her and her friend after school. And in exchange for me like buying her food, because we would get to work a lot earlier, you know, when we would get a ride there versus me having to walk there. So we would have a little bit of time to like order food and stuff. And I would usually do that because I wanted to eat something, have something in me, so I wouldn't be on an empty stomach, because like working on an empty stomach when you're hungry in front of food that you can't eat is the worst thing in the world. So I would want to, you know, get something in me. So since I would order food, it would be really hard for me to just like, you know, say no to her, because she like, and with the excuses that I was giving her of, you know, and I also felt bad eating in front of her when she allegedly didn't have access to any money, you know. So I would give in to her and I would buy her food. And I know that I shouldn't have been doing that. I know people are going to yell at me and be like, it's your own fault that she was taking advantage of you because you allowed it. Right. But anyway, I would usually buy like things that she and I could share. Like, I would buy like a 10-piece chicken tender and she and I could have, you know, share it and that sort of thing. And we also got a 50% discount. So like, it wasn't super expensive, but still, like, it was just so annoying that she took advantage of me. And she would always tell me, every time I would buy her food, she would always tell me, oh, once my parents give me my pay card back, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back for all of the food that you buy me. Well, there was this one day where she actually did get her pay card back from her parents. And like, she showed it to me at school, because we were going to be working. This was on a Friday, and we were going to be working. Both of us were going to be working after school that day. So she shows me her pay card. She's like, oh, my parents actually let me have my pay card for once. So today, after school, when we get to work, I'm going to buy you dinner. I'll buy you dinner on me. Because you always buy me dinner. So I'm like, okay, great. For once, she's actually like returning the favor of me buying her food. So we get to work, she buys me food and pays for it. And there's also like a lot of other things that happened on this particular day that I'm going to talk about that really pissed me off. So towards the end of our shift, we were working an evening shift, obviously. Towards the end of our shift, she asked to borrow my phone so that she can like text or call her father to let him know that she's about ready to get off of work, so he can come pick her up. And she had been like, I was working up at the front, like taking orders and stuff like that and getting food out to customers. And she was, she was doing some kind of like prep work in the back. So she wasn't like dealing with the customers. And so she took my phone and said, oh, I'm going to text my dad with it and I'll give it back. And she was like, a long time had gone by and she still hadn't given my phone back. So I go in the back where she's doing this prep work and I'm asking her, oh, are you about done? And she's like, oh no, I'll be done soon. I'm just waiting for my dad to like respond to my message. And then she ends up taking the trash out and she takes my phone with her. And I had just gotten like a brand new phone like a month before this happened. So I had this phone for maybe 1 month. It was an iPhone 6S because this is like, that's when those were out. But she goes to take the trash out. And so she walks to the dumpster and then she comes back and to go into the inside of the restaurant. And she walks through, like crosses the drive-through lane. And I guess a car was coming in the drive-through lane and it startled her and she ended up dropping my phone and cracking the screen. This phone that I just got, like it wasn't like super bad cracked, but there was like, you know, it wasn't like the entire screen was cracked, but there was a crack on it. And she gives it back to me and I'm like, what the hell happened to my phone? And because it got cracked. And it made me so mad because I'm like, I just got this phone. You know, my dad is going to be pissed at me for already cracking it. And then, yeah. And then the next day was Saturday. She and I also were going to be working at the same time. I think she had a shift that started a little bit earlier than mine did. And then I was going to be working like an afternoon into the evening shift. And so I got into work. And when I got there, I had a few minutes before I needed to clock in. So I just kind of sat at a table and was just like scrolling through my phone, you know, waiting for it to be time for me to clock in. And like I said, her shift started a little earlier than mine. So she was already clocked in and she was doing like some side work, sweeping tables or sweeping the floor, wiping tables, that sort of thing. And she comes up to the table that I'm sitting at and she's like, hey, my father says that you have to pay me back for the food that I bought you yesterday. And I'm just like, what the hell? I have to pay you back? Like, first of all, you volunteered to buy me food. You told me, oh, I'll buy you food. Like, it's on, you know, you volunteered to buy me food to pay me back for all the times that I had bought you food before. And so I said, like, why do I have to pay you back? And she says, well, my dad just says you have to. And I'm just like, it just wasn't adding up because I'm like, okay, I can understand me being obligated to pay her back if I had asked her to buy me food, but because she volunteered to do so, no, I shouldn't owe her anything. She's the one that decided to do that. And in my mind, I'm like, I am not going to pay her back for this because I shouldn't have to. And so I just start, like I usually did whenever she would ask me to buy her things, I started making excuses and I started, you know, because she had just cracked my phone the day before. I said, oh, well, I really don't have the money right now because I have to save up some money so that I can pay to have my phone screen repaired that you cracked last night. And she's like, well, my dad says you need to pay me back. So like whenever you can, please pay me back. And then she goes on to say, oh, you can just give me a $20 bill and that'll cover it. And I'm like, a $20 bill when like, I don't remember what I ordered, but like again, we got a 50% discount. So it wouldn't have been anywhere near $20. And so here she is asking me to not only pay her back for something that I shouldn't have been obligated to pay her back for anyway, but asking me to pay back more than what I would have, you know, what she would have paid back. And so I'm in my mind, I'm just like, I'm not paying her back. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm not going to give in to her. And then over the course of the next few weeks at work and at school, she just would continue to nag me. When are you going to pay that $20? When are you going to give me $20 for that thing? And then like, there was this one day where we were working and she tells me that her dad was going to like make her as a punishment, make her sleep outside and not let her eat until I paid her back the $20. And I'm just like, why would your thought, like, I think that this was totally something that she was just saying to manipulate me. because like, why would any sane parent threaten to like make you sleep outside for me not paying you back something that I shouldn't even have to pay you back for in the first place. But yeah. And then eventually, I just got so sick and tired of her nagging me that I just gave in and I gave her $20, which again, I know I shouldn't have done that. Big mistake on my part, but I did it. Yeah. And then on to the next little thing that happened during our sophomore year of high school. So we ate lunch every day in the library instead of in the cafeteria, because she and I started eating lunch together since I had been eating lunch alone for most of high school. But we ate in the library, and so she would kind of like strike up conversations with the librarian and talk to her and things like that. And so the librarian one day, she had a few like tablets, like Kindle tablets, available for checkout for students for reading purposes, right? Reading. You're supposed to be reading a book on these, not using them for playing games, not using them to text boys, like for reading. And so she gave Hannah one of the tablets to check out that she had in the library. And so right away, Hannah started using this tablet for everything but what it was intended for. Instead of reading, she was using it to play games and using it to like go on like messaging apps to message boys. And part of this made me happy because that meant that she was using my phone less to text boys because she had another means of communication, and using my phone less for games and stuff like that because now she had another thing to play games on, even though she technically wasn't supposed to be playing games and texting guys on this tablet. But it made me happy that she had less reasons to use my phone. And so she eventually, my cat is right in front of me. She eventually reconnected with a boy from her hometown on like Facebook Messenger. And this boy was a little bit older than us. We were 16 at the time, and this boy was like 20 years old or something. And so I guess this was a guy that she had dated in the past when she was living in her hometown, and she like vowed that like one day she would reconnect with him and they would be, in a relationship and that sort of thing. And so she starts texting them. She starts talking about like hanging out with him and seeing him, saying that like he was going to come to her house one day and like she was going to like hide him in the closet so her parents weren't there, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then, so fast forward to, this was the Tuesday of the last week of the school year. And she came to school we had to work. Oh my God, my cat just saw a fly on my sliding glass patio door. That's beside the point. But anyway, he's trying to swat at it. Anyway, so the Tuesday before the last week of school, or the Tuesday of the last week of school, she and I were both scheduled to work after school that day. And and the other thing is, the friend that she was getting rides with was a senior, and she had graduated already, because at my high school they hold graduation for the seniors like the Sunday before the last week of school. So all the other kids still have like one more week of school when the seniors are already done, if that makes sense. So her friend had already graduated, so she wasn't able to get rides from her anymore. So her dad had to start driving her. Anyway, so I wasn't riding together with her anymore. I would just walk to work after school. So anyway, I got to work that day, and she ended up getting there a little bit later than I did. And so I was just like doing side work and stuff, and I see her walk into the restaurant, and it looked like as though she had been crying. And so I didn't ask anything. I didn't say anything. I was just going to kind of wait until she said something to me. And then eventually, after she clocked in, she starts telling me, my parents are really pissed because they found out about the tablet, the tablet that she had checked out from the school library that she was using to text boys on. Because obviously, first of all, she wasn't supposed to have any electronics or anything like that in the first place because she was grounded, allegedly. And she was texting boys, and she was texting this older boy too. So she was saying, my parents are really pissed. They found out about it. They're going through the messages as we speak. And right after work, they're going to send me away to this troubled teen program. And so that's what ended up happening. She ended up going to this troubled teen program. She wasn't at school for the rest of the week. And she didn't go. The other thing is, I'll get into kind of what happened after she got done with this troubled teen program. So her parents, her mom, her stepmom and biological dad ended up moving houses, and she ended up going to another high school for a little bit. And then eventually, like towards the end of our junior year, she ended up moving back in with her biological mom and stepfather in her hometown. And so she finished off high school in her hometown. And so eventually we ended up reconnecting on Snapchat. And so this story that I'm about to tell takes place about 2 weeks after we both graduated high school. So we reconnected on Snapchat. She was at this point now living with her biological mom. And so she reaches out to me. There was this one day that I actually had the day off of work, of my fast food job. And so she says, hey, you want to hang out today? And I'm like, sure, that would be great. Because, even though I knew that she had taken advantage of me and completely used me in the past, I figured, hey, it's been 2 years. We're now high school graduates. Maybe she's changed, and again, a lot of the reasons that she would like ask me for like money and to use my phone and things like that was because apparently her stepmom and father that she lived with at the time were really strict. So I figured, her biological mom seems a lot more chill now. So maybe she doesn't get her phone taken away or doesn't get money taken away from her. So maybe she's not going to ask me to use those things. So I thought, she wants to hang out and it's just going to be us having fun, instead of her asking me to buy her things or do things for her. Nope, I was wrong. But anyway, yeah, we reconnect on Snapchat and she asks me, do you want to hang out? And I said, yes, sure, we can hang out. It's been so long, can't wait to catch up. And so I asked her, do you want me to, do you want to come to where I am or do you want me to come to you? And she says, you can come to me. And so obviously I didn't drive. So I ended up Ubering from where I lived to her town that she lived in, which was like 25 minutes away. So it was about a $25 Uber ride. So I get there and she gives me the address instead of where a friend of hers lives instead of her mom's house. So this friend of hers lived on her own in a house that her uncle owned that I guess the uncle like rented out to her. But I got to the house. It was it was a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath, maybe 800 square feet house. It was an old home, run down. There was garbage all over the place. It definitely was in need of renovations. There was cigarette butts all over the place because her and her friend smoked and vaped, and I wasn't into that kind of thing. But I guess, yeah, the condition of the house really isn't that relevant to this story, but that's just a detail. But I get there and first of all, I get there and, again, this is the first time in 2 years that we'd seen each other. And so you'd think she'd be all excited, like, hey, it's been so long. It's so great to see you. We have so much to catch up on. Instead she was just like, oh, hey, that was it. It didn't seem like she was all that excited to see me. So I get there, obviously her friend is there and stuff. And so we're talking and she's like, oh, what do you want to do today? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine with whatever. And she's like, how about we get our nails done? And I'm like, great, I'm kind of due for another manicure anyway, so we can get our nails done. And she's like, oh, by the way, I don't have any money. So can you pay for me today? But and I'm like, oh, I'm like rolling my eyes and I'm just like, oh my gosh, she has not changed. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll pay for you to get your nails done, because I had spent $25 on an Uber to drive all the way out here. So like, I didn't want to turn around and go back home at this point. I was just like, fine, I'll pay for you. And so, yeah. And then before we head out to get our nails done, she has her boyfriend at the time come over and to like tag along with us, because her friend and her boyfriend were also going to tag along with us. So it was going to be the 4 of us. And so her boyfriend comes over, and we're all just like sitting around the living room of this house hanging out. And like she's like sitting on top of her boyfriend. And they're all like whispering and like laughing at me, because like all these, like the 3 of them were all into like smoking and vaping, drugs, partying, and I just was not into that kind of stuff. I was a goody 2-shoes, and they were all kind of laughing at me, making fun of me a little bit, that I wasn't into that stuff, like asking me, oh, have you ever drank alcohol before? Have you ever done drugs? And then when I would tell them no, and they would be like, oh, you're a loser. Like, like they were making fun of me and laughing at me. And looking back, I wish that I would have just gotten up and left at that point and been like, if you're going to sit here and make fun of me and disrespect me like that, then you can forget about getting your nails done. But no, I sat there and I took it. And that's one thing I'm mad at myself for. I'm like, why did I let this person who, use me and take advantage of me and then walk all over me like that? Why did I do that? But yeah, so I took it, and then so we headed out to get our nails done. None of us drove, like the 4 of us did not drive. So we ended up walking to, it was kind of the town that she lived in was kind of a more like small-ish, like not like a super small town, but it was more on the small side and more on the rural side, if that makes sense. But there was a little mall that was there. Like when I say mall, it was like a 1-story mall with like, what do you call it? Like maybe like 10 stores in it, like Bath and Body Works. I think there was a Maurice's. I think there was like an Old Navy or something like that. And then there was like maybe like a Chinese takeout place. And then, but this mall had a nail salon. It was a really cheap nail salon. It was only like $30 to get your nails done. But then like, as we're walking to this nail place, she's, cause at first she and I were just going to get manicures, and she goes, oh, can I also get a pedicure too? And I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, I know this is all my fault. So we get our nails done. And at this point, after we were done getting our nails done and I paid and everything, my mom, because I still lived with my mom, obviously, at the time, and she was kind of a helicopter parent, and she would, like, every time I would go out and do things with friends, she would always be texting me, wanting to know, when are you coming home? When are you going to be home? Blah, 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 blah. And so she was doing that, and she was, like, wondering where I was at, when I was going to be back, when I was going to be heading home. And so we get out of the nail salon, and we're all in, like, the food court area of this tiny mall where the Chinese place was. And I'm like, I better get going. My mom wants me back home. And so I like get out my phone to order an Uber to go back home. And Hannah just starts like asking me if I can buy her and her boyfriend and her friend, all of them, Chinese food at this Chinese place. And I'm like, I really shouldn't. The old tricks that I used to do in high school, instead of just saying no, I just said, I need to save money for college and stuff like that. So I really shouldn't. And once again, just like what she used to do in high school, she kept begging me, please, please get me food. I'm hungry. And I just was like, no, 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 no. Like, yeah. So I go on my phone to order an Uber, and I guess the town that we were in, Uber like didn't exist there. Like I was able to get a ride, an Uber to the town, but I couldn't get a ride to come pick me up and take me back home. So I wasn't able to order an Uber, and I didn't realize that until this point. So I was literally stranded there. I was like, oh crap, I need to get back home. I can't get an Uber. What am I going to do? And like I said, none of her friends drove, so they couldn't drive me. And I didn't want to have to ask my mom or her boyfriend to come drive up there and pick me up because they would have been pissed off. So I was just like, what am I going to do? I was like freaking out. And you'd think that if Hannah genuinely cared about me as a person and was in fact a true friend, you'd think she would have been all concerned and trying to do what she could to help me. But no, instead, she cares more about her Chinese food cravings. And she literally says, oh, well, I guess you're stuck here. Might as well buy me some food. And just like starts going on to nag me about buying Chinese food. It's like you would have thought that she would have tried to help. Like, maybe I can see if my mom can drive you home and you can pay her for gas. Like, no, she was just like, just get me Chinese food. Like, who cares that you're probably not going to be able to get home? Like, yeah. So what I had to do was I had to call a cab company. So like I had to, cause there's like a cab. I mean, obviously I don't live in a big city, but like I had to call Happy Cab, which is like a cab business in my state. I had to call them to pick me up. I had to call them. It took a long time for somebody to get there. It took like an hour for someone to get there and to pick me up. And it was like twice as expensive as an Uber. I paid $50 to get back home. So that really pissed me off. It made me really mad that I had spent all that money to drive there and to drive back and to have a really crappy time. Like I did not have a good time at all. I was treated like crap and I was taken advantage of. I was treated like a doormat. And at that point I was just like, I am never going to hang out with her again because she's going to completely take advantage of me, you know? Like, yeah. So I learned my lesson and I was just like, never again. Unless she can actually show me that she's changed and she's a better person, I'm not hanging out with her again. And then I guess there were a couple times after this that she did try to like reach out to me and, you know, get me to buy her thing or try to hang out with me. And I just like, you know, I didn't tell her no, because once again, I can't say no to people, but I just never followed up with her. Like there was one time on Snapchat, like the following summer, that she reached out to me and asked if we could hang out. And she told me, oh, I have a job now and I just got paid. And I was literally in my mind, I was like, yeah, right. We're going to go to a restaurant or we're going to go do something. And right when it comes time to pay for our stuff, you're going to discover that you left your wallet at home and I'm going to have to pay for it. Like, that's going to happen. And then there was the same summer, the summer after my freshman year of college, where I was moving. I was moving apartments and stuff. And I posted on, because she was friends with me on Facebook. I posted on my Facebook page to see if I could get somebody to help me with moving. And she offered to help me because I was offering to like buy lunch for her and give them gas money or whatever for whoever was going to help with moving. And I was just like, yeah, right. You want to help me, but you really don't want to help me. You just want me to buy you food. And like knowing her, she was going to make me take her to would have made me take her to like the most expensive restaurant, and she would have like bought like appetizers and dessert and bought the most expensive entree. And I was a broke college student, so I didn't want to deal with that. So I was like, I would literally rather move my stuff by myself than have you help me, because like, you're just going to completely take advantage of me. Like, you're not going to really help me, you know? So I just yeah. Anytime she tried to, you know, those couple times that she tried to reach out, I just kind of ignored it and was like, no, I'm never doing that again because like I learned my lesson. So yeah, that is the story of the friend that took advantage of me. And I just want to leave this with like, hey, if somebody's gonna use you and treat you like that, don't let them do that. Learn how to be better at saying no than I am. And you don't really need a friend if they're gonna treat you the way this person did. I think part of my problem was just like being a people pleaser, and like I was so worried about saying no to her because I was worried of pissing her off and making her not want to be friends with her, because I had no friends and she was my only friend. And it's obviously really difficult for autistic people to make friends. And so I knew that like if I lose her as a friend, then I have nobody. And honestly, she really wasn't a friend. Like it wouldn't have made a difference if I was friends with her versus me not having any friends, because she literally just used me and took advantage of me. She was not a real friend. So I hope you got something out of this video. I know this video is probably over an hour long, but if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to me if you are interested in more content, and feel free to leave any stories down below in the comments if you've ever had any crappy friendships, anybody like that that's ever taken advantage of you. And yeah, or leave me any suggestions on videos that you would like to see in the future. So I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.